People need to grow a pair. People need to realize we're not all out trying to hurt each other. If you understand the intent of someone's conversation, their words, I think that's the most important thing. Welcome to the Warrior Podcast. I'm Jim Rabb, your special guest today. And now I'd like to introduce to you your host, Frank Lardino.
Thank you, Mr. Jim Rabb. Today, guys, we're going to have a lot of fun. Jim Rabb is one of the funniest people I know. He is has a ton of voices and impersonations, and we just wanted to have a freestyle interview today. We're going to tell some funny life stories. We're going to let Jim showcase his voice and his impersonations. And, I would like to introduce to you now President John Kennedy.
I'll have to say it's a pleasure to be here with all of you today. I've come back from a very dark place to say hello, and my brothers finally joined me. Teddy, who, as you probably know, stopped Mary Jo. Mary Jo Kaopectate stopped Teddy from running. And he was a good swimmer. I don't actually know what all to say. I'm feeling some excruciating pain right now. So,
all right, President. Sorry to put you on the spot like that. Welcome, my friend Jim Rabb. I've enjoyed our previous podcast together. I'm going to let you take the wheel. We can freewheel through some of your funny stories. I would love to hear how you've used your voice to break down barriers or really get people like, holy crap, who is this guy,
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact...
Petey, stop it.
I want to be on the show, too.
Stop it, Petey.
You did that to me in the first phone conversation I had with you, and I'm like, how come you can't control the people in the room? All right, you're having a phone conversation. Tell those people to shut up. I literally thought you had other people in the room. It was hilarious.
Yeah, Jim's a little weird that way. He doesn't like to acknowledge everybody in his head.
It's sometimes he just kicks me to the corner and I can't find my way out. But the fact of the matter is, he's a very good man and he's got a good heart on it. He's a good man. In fact, I would like to share a story with you, if I may, about a telemarketed call I got one day. We all love the telemarketers, and I just thought I'd have some fun one day. So I answered the telephone, and excuse me, as an old man, I get a little choked up periodically. It was the, what was that called again?
Yeah, it was emergency alert.
Stop it, Petey. I'm on the phone.
It was an emergency alert call.
Anyways, with my real voice, let me set this up for you real quickly. I received a telemarketed call from emergency alert bracelets, and I thought I'm going to showcase my voice and have some fun with the person at the other end. So after the recording, I pressed 1, and the young lady at the other end, she said hello, and I went,
hello, who's this?
And she said, I'm calling from the emergency alert company.
What's that?
She said, well, those are bracelets or pendants that you can wear if you've fallen down and gotten hurt or something like that. And I'd just be interested, may I ask how old you are? I said,
I'll be 95. What's that, Mary? Oh, Mary says I'm only 93, but if I'm lucky, I will make it to 95. What is this again?
And she said, it's the emergency alert bracelet.
What is that?
And she proceeded to explain emergency alert is something that you can wear, a pendant or a bracelet. And if you fall down, you press a button and it summons, the ambulance or emergency services in case you've had a problem at the home. So I knew that I was going to have fun with her because she was responding as I was hoping she would, and this was not planned. I said,
Can you tell me a little about this device?
And she said, yes, you wear it on your neck or, as I mentioned, on your wrist. And if somebody's fallen down, you can summon help. I said,
that's very interesting. Would this have helped when Mary was on the floor a couple of years ago?
She said, your wife was on the floor?
She had fallen on the floor, and and she was there for 3 days.
Your wife was on the floor for 3 days. This gal responds to me. I said,
Yeah, I didn't know what to do. I
didn't you try picking her up?
Well, I tried to pick her up, but when I did, I crapped myself, and I had to go and change, and so I went upstairs, and frankly, I guess I forgot about what's that, Mary? Yeah, I know. We got past that, though. Just give me a break. What is this again that you're calling about?
And she's an emergency alert bracelet.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, what did you ask me?
Oh,
Well, you
my
said
God.
your wife had fallen on the floor and you left her there for 3 days. I said,
Oh, right, I went upstairs to clean up, and I forgot about her in the living room, and a couple days later, I went to the living room looking for something, and Mary was there on the floor. I finally was able to drag her up on. What is this again you're calling about?
she emergency alert bracelet.
Are they free?
She said, no, they're not free. They're $29.95 a month. And if you get 2 of them, there's a little bit of a discount. I said,
Oh, let me hang on a second. Mary, would you like a bracelet so I don't leave you on the floor again for a couple of days? But she wants to know how this thing works.
well, if she were to fall down and has one of the pendants, she can press a button and it alerts the emergency services for you.
Okay, and she's pressing the device on what again?
It's the emergency alert bracelet, sir.
Okay, I'm a little old, so it's hard to remember. Anyhow, you said you have a pendant? Yeah.
And she goes, yes, we do have a pendant or a little bracelet you can wear.
What's that, Mary? Mary wants the pendant. No, Mary, what? Mary said she's not dependent. Mary, hang on. Mary, it's a pendant, not dependent. We already got rid of the kids. They've been gone a long time.
So the woman at the other end, you can hear her kind of chuckling, but trying to keep a straight face. She had asked me, how old I was, as I mentioned.
I'm 95. Maybe you should speak to my son. What is this again?
And I must have asked 10 or 15 times what this was, and she kept saying emergency alert bracelet.
So Mary wants to know what colors they come in.
And she tells me there's a steel one or a brushed nickel, but they're very attractive. And
What's that, Mary? No, they come in steel or what'd you say?
brushed nickel, sir.
Brushed nickel. What? No, she doesn't want anything that's been stolen.
No,
Mary, it's not been stolen. It's made of steel. We're not. What is this again? Okay. And how much are they?
she tells me they're $39.95 if you get a couple of them, or $29, whatever the number was. I don't quite remember. We chatted. This went on for quite a while. I asked her a number of times what the item was and told her that my memory wasn't very good. And it gets to the point where
Mary said she would like to have one, and I should have 2 in case I lose one. So we'll need 3 of. How much are they?
Sir, you would probably only need 2. You don't need 3, is what she tells me. $29.95, $39.95 with a little bit of a discount if you get 2. So I finally agreed that I would get one, and we'd get one for Mary.
I'll take a. Yeah, we'd like to have one, but again, if Mary falls down, it will help her get up.
No, sir, she can call emergency services.
Okay, I think we have a Mary. I'm gonna order one for you and 2 for me in case I lose one. That was a good idea. Yeah.
So with that, the gal says, well, I'm really thankful. I think it'll be very beneficial. And this is, of course, a much shorter version. The call lasted about 20 minutes. And she said, well, now I need to put you into a confirmation call for your order.
Confirmation? For what? Oh, what, Mary? Mary said I had confirmation when I was 15.
Sir, it's just confirming the order. If you'll hang on for a moment, let me put you through to somebody who'll take your order from you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, they switch me over. The gal says, yes, I understand you want to place an order.
What is this I'm ordering again?
And she goes, emergency alert bracelets.
Oh, yeah, I just need to tell you
that I've been having fun for the last 20 minutes and 19 seconds with your telemarketer, just practicing my voices, but I don't think I'll be ordering anything today. I wish you all a very good day, and hopefully you won't get another call like this, at least for another 20 minutes. And that was my emergency alert story.
They should give an award to that salesperson. I mean, she stuck with you.
She was great. When I said,
Mary was on the floor for 3 days.
and she goes, your wife was on the floor 3 days and you didn't pick her up.
I crapped myself.
I could hear that she was giggling in the back, but you left your wife on the floor for 3. She was just flabbergasted. I don't think she'll ever have another call like that again, but I had fun with it.
It's funny, comedians often, we make fun of elderly people. We make fun of everything. I remember being at a high school football game, watching my son play football, and an old man was walking up the aisle, and he was old, like he was really old, and he had a baseball cap on, and it said, genuine antique person, been there, done that, I don't remember.
And he'll be back a few times again, I'm sure. But
that's a great one.
Yeah. And I had one it'll be a year ago, I think around the 15th of this month, where I had probably 6 months prior to the phone call made a call to AT&T to ask them to stop telemarketing me for DirecTV. And they said they'd take my name off the list. Well, 6 months later, which is now middle of December last year, I get a phone call. It's AT&T and DirecTV. And I remember the gal's name very well. We'll call her Lynette for today. And I was going to give her a hard time for telemarketing because they were told. And I started, and this is pretty much how that call went. I really wish that you guys could stop telemarketing me. I've asked to get...
Hey, Jim, don't be a butthead.
Stop it. I'm on the phone.
Yeah, but you're being a real jerk.
Stop it. I'm on the phone. If you're not quiet, you'll go to the closet.
Yeah, but you never let me say hi to anybody either.
Stop it. Well, with that, Lynette goes, who's there? I said, well, that's Petey. And when the phone rings, Petey likes to speak to the people, but he said some things that are rude, and I just don't put him on anymore.
Yeah, I'm not always rude. Sometimes I'm nice. You're the jerk.
Stop it, Petey, or you're going to go to the closet.
Yeah, if I go to the closet, you're going with me.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
So Lynette is like, wow, you put him in the closet? He keeps interrupting me. What am I going to do? She said, well, I'll say hi to Petey. So I said, you want to say hi to Petey? She goes, yeah. So I said, Petey, this is Lynette. You be very nice. Don't say anything dumb. And I'll put you on the phone. Lynette, this is Petey. She goes, hi, Petey. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
And she goes, I'm fine. Do you ever, your dad doesn't let you get on the phone very often?
No, he's a real butthead. Sometimes he can be a real ass.
That's it, Petey. You're going to the closet.
No, I don't want to go to the closet.
You're going to the closet. And with that, I stood up. I walk over to the closet door with the phone in hand. I open and slam the closet door shut and then into the phone. Petey, be quiet in there. And Lynette goes, what'd you do? I said, I put Petey in the closet. You didn't put him in the closet. I said, absolutely. He was interrupting the call. I don't have time for it. And I really, I don't have time for these telemarketer calls either. So he won't interrupt us any longer. And, I'd appreciate if he stopped with the phone calls. So that was pretty much the end of it. I thanked her. We got off the phone. And I was in the back office. I happened to be in the back office in my work clothes, which is tighty whities. And I'm sitting there, and it was an hour and 40 minutes later, and I hear this god-awful pounding on my door. I'm thinking, who the heck is at the front door? What is going on? So I run into the bedroom. I look out through the curtains, and all I can see through the storm door is a belt, but I knew it was the belt of a police officer. I'm like, oh, crap, the police are here. So I threw on a pair of pants and a shirt, ran to the front door, opened it up. I went up and opened the storm door, and two officers are there, and they stepped back and said, first thing out of their mouth, is your phone number 630-897-8978? I said, no, that's parked. So what do you mean it's parked? I said, the number's being reserved. It's forwarded to my phone, but I don't use it generally. Why? What's up? Oh, we got a phone call that you've got a child locked in a closet. I said, what are you talking about? Now, please keep in mind that when I get telemarketing calls, if I'm in the mood for it, I will pick up those calls and have fun with the folks. Because frankly, I don't really like being bothered by them, but it gives me a chance to exercise some of my voices. So I said, I have no clue what you're talking about. And they said, well, we got a phone call that there's someone locked in the closet. Standing there with the storm door open. I said, if you want to come in and check, but let me first tell you, I know your boss, the chief of police, and I know his boss, the mayor. And I think if you were to reach out to them, neither one of them would ever tell you that, as far as they could tell, I wouldn't have any kid in the closet, but we never know. Anyway, that didn't much matter. And I said, look, if you want to come in and search the house, you're welcome. And then I stopped them all of a sudden. I said, no. You can't do that. I've got 6 pounds of marijuana sitting on the coffee table. I don't want you in the house. And then I told them I was just kidding. But actually, there's really no reason to come in. I had convinced them to leave, which in retrospect, I find kind of curious. They took the time to come over to the house, thinking I had a child locked in the closet. They took my word that there was no child, yet they were willing to leave, as opposed to saying, and this was an afterthought, we're going to ask you to stay here. We want to get a search warrant, come into the house, because there was no way I would have let them in the house without a search warrant. But they were leaving. I shut the door. I'm walking back into the kitchen. It's like, son of a, that was AT&T. It just dawned on me because I do the voices all the time. So I ran back outside. One of the squad cars had just pulled away. The other squad car is sitting out on the other side of the street. And I ran across the street barefoot. It was freezing cold out. Officer, I think I know the reason you're calling me. I tend to do voices a lot with people, but don't worry, I don't have no kids in the closet. I can assure you that. And I get to the truck, and this officer, you can see him shaking. He's laughing from the voices. And I got up to the window. And I said, I do voices. And he said, yes, obviously you do. I said, was it AT&T that called? And with that, he looks to his right, looks at the computer screen, and I can see the uppercase AT&T, but I can't make out the rest of the text on the screen. And he reads it, AT&T customer service called to report child locked in closet. I said, I can't believe they would have called you. I told the gal should have known I was goofing around. Anyways, I do voices. And yes, I can tell. I heard it. You're pretty funny, dude. This is hilarious. And we said our goodbyes, whatever. He drove off. And I wound up running into the officer about 6 months later at a function in Aurora called Cops in a Cone. And the police were they were giving out ice cream. It was ice cream sandwiches. It was the only thing they could keep frozen in the cooler versus a ice cream cone. And I went over to some officers. I was talking, and I had some books with me that I was giving out. In fact, books from a gentleman that, Frank, you had done a podcast with just recently, Dr. Robert Renteria from the Barrio.
His hat's right behind you on the shelf. So
yes, yeah. And with the eyes in the back of my head that are right now closed, I can't see it, but I promise I'll take a look in a few minutes. I go over to this officer, and I said, do you have much contact with the kids? And he looks down at me with this strange look on his face and said, yeah, I have contact with kids. You do too, don't you? And I'm like, huh? What are you talking about? He said, you're the funny guy. I said, what are you talking about? Because I didn't recognize this officer. He said, I was at your house about 6 months ago. You had a kid locked in a closet. I said, oh my God, you're the officer. Yeah, I'm the officer. I got to tell you, I went back to the station that day when I told him it was had to be the funniest call that I've ever been on. This guy comes out and he's doing voices. It was hilarious, but apparently they didn't get it at AT&T. So we spoke for a little bit. It was just kind of interesting that he found it very, very humorous, which is the reason I do the voices a lot of time. I find when I approach people, Frank, for the first time, in fact, I met a gentleman who was very, very high up with General Electric in Orlando. I guess it's about 8 weeks ago now. And I was sitting at a table with some people I had only just met. When I had gone to the table initially, the person that I knew that took me over to introduce me, I said, this is Jim.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
And they're looking at me like, huh? I can see they got a smirk on their face. And it's like,
Yeah, you probably think my voice is a little weird, but I was in an accident, and people think I'm kind of strange, but I'm a very serious person. And what's your name?
and I met the folks at the table, and I was talking like that for a couple of minutes, and
Yeah, I don't know what you're all eating.
but it looks very good to me. When I dropped my voice real deep, they just about fell face first into their dinner plates. I mean, they were, oh my gosh, we thought you really had a voice problem, blah, blah, blah. And so we're sitting there, we were talking, and a gentleman walks up and somebody said, well, here comes Mike. He's with General Electric. He came over, he said, hi, my name's Mike. I said,
Hi, Mike. My name's Jim.
and he looked at me like, oh my gosh, what's with that? And I said a couple of things to him like that. And I wasn't sure if, because of his position, if he could be a little, loosen up, or if he was going to be a stiff collar, whatever. And I said, I'd like to start over again and introduce myself as Jim. My name's Jim Rabb. And he goes, wow, dude, that's, when you first said hello, I'm thinking, this guy's, where's he from? But the point I was going to make is sometimes meeting people for the first time, if you can get them to laugh and put a smile in their face, it drops their defenses. And when it comes to the phone, which I love being on the telephone, a lot of times I will engage customer service reps. All of a sudden, I'll put another voice out there. And they're, who's that?
Oh, it's nobody you got to worry about, Jim. Jim has a lot of buddies on the phone that just like to hop on the phone. Stop it, man. I'm trying to sleep. Would you please stop it?
Hey, guys, keep it down.
It drops their defenses. And I've done a little routine with folks. They ask, are you a ventriloquist? I said, only when I have a mask on during COVID, I could be a ventriloquist, because then you don't see my lips move. I haven't quite perfected the art of ventriloquism. I'm still working on that. But I find that in the world we're living in today, and I'm being 100% dead serious right now, we can all use a little laughter. The world is a place that makes you just want to go to bed crying, wondering if we're going to wake up from this nightmare. And I wish I had recorded many of those phone calls, because there have been comments, I feel blessed. I mean, we get into some heavy conversation. I could be speaking with someone, and I have no problem saying, I'm sensing, are you African American? And they'll say, yes. I said, well, I ask only because I hear it in the voice. And I would share some things, and on the phone with someone, I don't remember exactly who it was with. I think it may have been somebody from T-Mobile, who many times I call into to really let them know how frustrated I am. But it's not the messenger's fault. So I don't really try and cook the messenger, the people at the other end. They just happen to be the ones that are thrown under the bus by unfortunate circumstances. And I get to a point in the conversation where, they're laughing. I've got a big smile on my face. I mean, nothing really gives me more joy and happiness than to hear someone genuinely laughing, telling me this is the funniest call I've had in 20 years ever. I came into work this morning very depressed. Oh my gosh, I feel blessed. And with the folks, and I do hear, I came up with a line that, look, I don't care what your paint job is. We all laugh, we cry, we bleed red. We have issues in life, we have challenges. And sometimes we just need an escape, even if it's for only a few moments. And if I can bring that to someone's life, and I've been giving that away for years. I mean, I really have been giving it away. I've had a couple people tell me that I should be charging for it, but on the phone I can't. maybe someday I'll come up with a call a joke line or something, get somebody in. I did have a girl from the Philippines, in fact, from T-Mobile. When I got done with her, she was convinced, and there was no changing her mind, that there were 8 people at my house. And I said, no, they were all, the guy's gotten talk this way, and he just got to understand he's not quite all there. And I was just voice after voice, and she said, no, I know there are different people there. I said, no, darling, that's all me. Well, whatever. And when we said goodbye, she said, I want to say goodbye to all your friends.
Oh yeah, well, we like hearing you at the other end. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's good to the fact that you called, but don't worry about it. We'll all be better tomorrow. So I just had fun, and as I'm sharing that, I called Chase Bank to pay some bills online. And I was talking with a gentleman. I thought, I'm going to loosen this one up as well. So I was speaking with him. I said, Jim, who are you talking to on the telephone? And the guy goes, and he starts with a disclaimer. The guy started, I don't even remember what he said. I said, what are you doing? He said, well, when somebody else gets on the phone, I have to do a disclaimer. I have to start over again. I said, well, that was me. I said, no, whoever that other person was, I have to.
Oh, so if I get on the phone, you're going to have to say something.
And again, and I must have done that with him 5 or 6 times. He absolutely wasn't buying that it was all me. The transition sometimes is pretty intense and happens pretty smoothly, which I've had a lot of folks say that. In fact, a fellow that won an Emmy down in Atlanta, he said, Jim, I don't know anybody who can transition from one voice to another as quickly and effectively as you can. He had me reach out to a friend of his who's done some Disney work. And the guy said, dude, you've got a gift there. And I know I do, and I guess I need to go for it. So if anyone out there currently is hearing my voice, if you can, within the sound of my voice, anybody that's looking for either a funny, outgoing voicemail or just something a little different,
I can bring it all to the table.
And as Frank mentioned earlier, some impersonations.
I just wanted to pause you.
Yeah.
You're kind of diabolical too. Okay. And here's what I mean. Like, I could just see you like you're at a function and you throw the PD voice out there and you're watching them closely because they laugh initially because it sounds funny, right? And they don't know if you're making the voice up or not. And you continue to talk, you carry it on, and they're like, oh shit, this is how he talks. And then they start to go through perhaps feeling sorry for you. Like, how does this guy actually live his life with this voice, this poor guy? And you're taking it all in. It's like, that's diabolical. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. And you have almost described to a T something that happened when I was back in Worcester, Massachusetts, visiting my granddaughters. I went into a Gander Mountain. And when I got into the parking lot, there were probably 3 cars there. I'm thinking, wow, is the place even open? I mean, literally 3 cars in the parking lot. I went in and somebody said, may I help?
Hey, do you have any stretchy stuff for my kayak?
She said, and the look on this gal's face was like, huh?
Yeah, I need some stretchy stuff for my kayak.
I have cording on my kayak. And I just thought I'd change it up a little bit. And she's like, what do you mean?
That black stuff that stretches, it's like elastic?
She goes, yeah. And a couple other employees come around because they're hearing this voice. And I happen to look over towards a cash register, and there's a guy who's kind of chuckling to himself.
Hey, man, are you laughing at me?
And he goes, no. I said,
Well, a lot of people laugh at me because when I come into a business or someplace and I start talking, they think I got a really weird voice, and it's not my fault. I had an accident.
No. I'm totally sorry. Actually, what I was thinking, and this goes right to what you said, Frank. He goes, actually, what I was thinking is it had to be really tough. It has to be tough to go through life with a voice like that.
Yeah, it really is a pain in the neck sometimes, but if I get really nervous,
my voice drops down really, really low, and I talk like this. And everybody was they were in shock, and they're like, oh my gosh, somebody else came up and said, who was talking here?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, is that you? And they realized it was me. I was a customer, so they weren't sure what to do, but it's that shock and awe, but it brings the defenses down. And I got a tour through the store. I was looking for some weights, and I the situation also presents, but I can't even remember the conversation within the store. The fella at the cash register holds his phone up. Hey, would you do that for me so I can put you on TikTok? Well, I've never wanted to be on TikTok because I've heard things about TikTok and its offshore origins and all that good stuff. Yet, I've also found out that TikTok could be a great place to be discovered. And then it could be monetized later on by if the right person discovers you. But so I don't know if he recorded me for TikTok. It was just kind of a funny situation. And I do, when I meet people,
Hello, my name's Jim. How are you? It's nice to meet you. Whatever it is. And
it just, whatever the mood brings about. But I do find I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing the smiles and hearing the smiles in people's voices. And you can hear them.
First of all, it takes balls to do that.
Really?
Like you're going into, like you have serious people, like you said, the one guy, you're trying to read him like, is he like really super serious and stuff? You're taking a chance, right? And then when you go from your PD voice to the low voice, you don't know if he's going to be offended or whatever,
right?
But like I said, you got that little Sith Lord streak in you, like you're watching the reactions when you do the voice. It's quite hilarious, right? It's like almost like an experiment each time.
Yeah. And I've managed to keep a straight face so that it makes it a little more edgy. I don't know where it comes from. I did have the luxury, pleasure, whatever it was. I studied at Second City School of Improv for a year. But I think I was pretty improvisational prior to that. Just had it repressed. It wasn't out like it is now. And I've done a lot of theater where my voices were the reason that I got the parts in the show. Whether it was a Dudley Do-Right type voice.
Do that one.
Oh no, what shall we do? Oh my gosh, I'm Dudley no, what was my name? Rodney Stoutheart. Hello, I'm Rodney Stoutheart, and
It's been a little while since I've done it. Somebody called me up and said, Jim, I'm looking for somebody to be in my play. Would you like to be in the show? This is probably 1982 or 83. I knew the gentleman that called me. So what are you looking for? He says, a Dudley Do-Right type character. Well, I knew I've listened to Dudley Do-Right, but I couldn't hear the voice in my head at the time. So I said, Tom, I'll call you back. Let me give it some thought. And I happened to be headed to the shower where I do a lot of my voices, as we all sing in the shower and sound just like Gloria Estefan. At least the crowds that are in the shower with me, they all sing in there.
no, we don't.
Stop it, Petey. And I just can't keep Petey tied down. So I was in there.
oh no. Oh no, what shall we do?
I'm sorry, my voice quality right now is a little off here. But I figured it out, called him back, and in that voice,
Hello, Tom Sanchez, please.
and he said, who's this? I said, I told him, Tom, it's me, Jim Rabb. He said, oh my God, can you do that voice for the whole show? I said, I think I can. So I went down and auditioned for the show, and there were a couple of other people there and said, Jim, that's a great voice, but you need to do it for an hour and a half. It won't be a problem. And it wasn't a problem. And I did that. And a few other shows that I've done where, I had to be the nerd in the show, and people are just amazed that I'm able to hold. And the voice, I'm trying to remember the nerd voice.
Well, I'm going to prompt you into another voice.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. President, did you have sex with that woman?
Well, I tell you, I did not have sex with that woman, that Miss Walensky, nor did I have a conversation with her. She was not in any position to have a conversation. I think she was preoccupied. I just heard a lot of mumbling and jumbling, and I must say, for the record, I did not have sex with Hillary. That was Vince Foster. Sorry, Chelsea, but Vince is your daddy. No.
It's not even the voices. It's where do you pull this stuff out? This crazy humor. I mean, that's good writing there, my friend.
I think if I stood up, it'd come out more freely right now. I've got the passage a little blocked off. The chair's in the way. No, I don't know. I'm crazy. It may be in the blood. I'm going to digress for a moment. My dad was a special effects artist in Gulliver's Travels, the original Gulliver's Travel cartoon, also special effects in Popeye cartoons. And back in the, how old I was, probably 1964, 65, I was in our bathroom in a new home up in Massachusetts, and he had purchased a small reel-to-reel tape recorder. I went in that bathroom that was all tile, and I was doing a lot of different cartoon voices. And he got a hold of the thing. He said, Jimmy, what's all this nonsense I'm hearing? Which, in retrospect, I kind of wish he had appreciated what I was doing there and copying, whether it's Snaggletooth or these different cartoon characters. I was impersonating them on his tape recorder. And would have been nice knowing what industry he had spent some time in had he encouraged me to do more. But at the time, it just seemed like nonsense. And there's still a few folks out there that think it's nonsense, but there's some people they just don't know how to loosen up. And they're a steel pipe 24/7. You never get them to bend or smile or laugh. But I knew I had something there. And it was really only after probably losing my brother back in 2002 that somehow a lot of his energy I picked up. And he had gone to Ringling Brothers Clown School, didn't get offered a contract. He was the funny one in the family. My older brother, his humor was very sarcastic and cutting. Funny because it was quick, but not so much because it was, I felt, kind of sarcastic and almost putting people down at the same time. In the last 20 years, certainly in the last 3 or 4, I've really been putting it out there and realizing, I'm only going around once. Mm-hmm. Why not share it with folks? And it's a gift that costs me nothing to share, which I've also heard the flip side of that. It's a gift that I should be maybe making some dollars with because I enjoy it. And what do they say? If you do what you love, the money will follow.
And that's one of the missions here is to get your voices out there. I was in these speech competitions for a while. I was with a group called Toastmasters. They have clubs all over the world. Mm-hmm. And I used to crap my pants to do public speaking, which is crazy because, I did ring fighting and all kinds of crazy stuff, but that public speaking was one of those fears I had. So I plunged into it and I got more comfortable. And so I started doing speech competitions, and I'm more of a, dramatic, life lesson stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, I joined a humorous speech competition. And I talked about my little Sicilian grandmother, and there were funny stories in there, and it was good. I won the competition actually, but at the end I said, if you can get somebody to laugh, no matter where they're at in life, even if they're in a deep hole, for that one moment they spring out of that hole and they can see the daylight. Absolutely, and that's why it's so important that collectively, because we are, we're in a pretty bad storm here globally. And we've already talked about that in our previous podcast, but laughter, we have to learn how to laugh again, and we can't be so offended about stuff. Like, we're way off the grid with that.
I absolutely follow you. A lot of times I'll create songs. One of the songs that I can't recall all the lyrics. I was driving in the car and I heard the term political correctness. And this is a couple of decades ago. I can remember I was up in Batavia. I know right where I was when I came up with the song. PC is not for me. I knew political correctness was going to have a negative effect on our society. I still believe to this day it does. Political correctness was the beginning of speech, the speech police. What you can say, what you can't say, you're going to hurt someone's feelings. It affected comedy clubs. Some of these comedians have to be very careful now as to what they say. And frankly, I don't agree with it. I grew up with the term sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. If you understand the intent of someone's conversation, their words, I think that's the most important thing. If you can tell when somebody's words are meant to hurt you, or when they're meant, they're making fun or light of a situation and bringing the humor and the absurdity sometimes of certain situations, people need to grow a pair. People need to realize that we're not all out trying to hurt each other. The need for what I do becomes greater every day as I hear on the news, and by the way, not television, because I don't have television in the house for 10 years now.
Good for you.
Things like presidents from the Poison Ivy League colleges, universities, places that I've referred to as institutions of higher indoctrination. I do get very serious at times, Frank, and I'm watching as we're melting down. We've got a real problem. Speech police, what's correct, what isn't correct. If we all become too serious, we're going to be in a world of hurt. We need to have some levity in the world. And I've met people, I've listened to people who face tragedy, and they've put a humorous spin on it. If only for a few moments, it brings some relief. People need to laugh. They need to not worry they're going to be judged. As I say that, I'm my own worst critic. I don't feel guilty for bringing laughter to people. I've bought devices to record phone calls. Of course, the best calls never get recorded. If I had something where every time I picked up the phone it was recorded, it would be great, because folks can hear the sincerity of the things that I do have to share that are sincere and real, connecting with anyone. I don't care if it's some guy in Uganda and I've had the conversations where they're laughing and in their accent, oh, I feel so blessed that I'm speaking with you, or somebody in Atlanta or somebody in Portland. It doesn't matter to me.
My book is finished. One of my chapters is called The Power of Words. And in particular, the power of words that make us laugh. I'm so with you on this. And you said something about recording calls. Can you imagine if they, at the Monday morning meeting at AT&T, they had the recording of your call, because they're all recorded, like, and used that as a case study? Like, that would, right? I mean,
that
like,
would have been hilarious.
Here's a real tough call that Mary Lou took, and here's how she handled it. And you were just messing around the whole time.
and to that story, when I was speaking with, we call her Lynette, when the police left, I called AT&T and I asked to speak with a supervisor. And I got the supervisor on the phone. I said, hi, I just wanted to share an incident that took place here in the last couple of hours. One of the AT&T DirecTV operators called the police and had the police sent to my house. And this gal was, are you kidding? I said, no, I'm very serious. I was doing some voices, and I locked one of my voices in the closet, and she thought it was real and called the police. And it was so odd. So many coincidences with this supervisor. The first one, she said, well, you could have been killed. I said, what are you talking about? She said, well, people have come to their front door and been killed before. I said, really? I don't think I would. She said, you never know. I was a police officer in San Antonio up until about 5 years ago when I started working here at AT&T. So my call about having had the police called to the house went to a supervisor who happened to have been a police officer. She then used a term that I haven't heard since my mom has passed on, and that's livid. She said, I'm livid. I can't believe that this happened to you. I said, well, it's all right. Everything's fine. She said, well, here's what I'm going to do. You're not going to have a bill this month, and I'm going to put $100 credit. So I did get paid actually for that phone call.
Very nice.
And yes, it was a $64.99 credit and another $100 put towards my next month's bill. Some get it, some don't. So what? Next. I mean, it's like in sales. But fortunately, I get more people laughing from some of the things I've said than I get them saying, sure, I'll buy what you have after doing a sales presentation. But, we're all selling, and I'll just leave that there.
Back to the societal get offended culture that we're in right now. I learned early on when I first started working on the trading floor, right? Wherever the workplace is high tension, high energy, and people are bouncing into each other all day, you create a ball-busting environment. That's just how it works. Restaurants, same thing. So here we are. We're in an environment where we're dealing with ungodly sums of money, where if you are in a certain position, like a broker or a trader, you could lose everything on a mistake, okay? Super high pressure. So when the markets cool off and everybody's just standing around, that pressure relief comes out in ball busting. You have to have a sense of humor. As soon as the jungle picks up on that, you don't have a sense of humor, and when you get your balls busted, you get all serious. They eat you alive.
Absolutely.
And so you, for survival, you have to realize, I have to develop the ability to have thick skin and be made fun of. Okay. And I'm a serious guy. All right. There's no question about it. I've been called intense by strangers. And one of the things that happened to me, which was one of the hardest things I ever had to, laugh out loud, even though I was burning up inside, it was my birthday. All right. And it was slow. That was near the end of the day. And the trading pit is like a coliseum. Okay. So all the banks of phones, these are all of our clients. We're in the pits. We transact the business. And my clerks had told everybody on the trading floor at 1:00, watch over in the pit by us. Okay. So I'm standing facing in the pit. My clerks are standing, at my back, and they would, they're transmitting information from the phone people to me. So my clerk taps me and he goes, Frank. And I think he's got an order to give me. So I turn, and as I turn, he pies me in the face.
Oh, jeez.
And I mean, he timed it so perfectly, I couldn't even close my eyes. I didn't even blink. Like the pie went in my eye sockets, And my 2,500 closest friends, all these people in the Coliseum started cheering. Okay. And I'm doing one of these, like I'm on Bozo Circus, right? With the stuff. And you got to suck it up. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, they laughed, and I walked off the floor and everybody was cheering. And then when I came back, they cheered again. We need that humor. We have to be able to make fun of ourselves, which you're really good at.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to take it, So I think we're on a good mission here.
As you're speaking, my mind went back to, I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny. I was doing Little Abner. Oh, well, I wasn't doing Little Abner. I was in the play Little Abner. I had a few different characters. One of them was John Kennedy as president, and the other was, my name is Senator Jackass Fogbound, and I was here to tell you how we're going to blow your homes off the face of the earth. Well, one day, Little Abner has to go and see the president. My back is to the audience. There are 1,000 people in St. Charles, 900 and change in the audience. And Abner's facing the crowd. He's looking at me. Nobody can see me. They can hear me, though. And so I did my Kennedy. Mr. Abner, is it true that your Yokenberry tonic will keep my brother from troubled waters? Well, the audience, first there was like a groan, and there was a pause, and then there was roaring laughter. I mean, it was just, and Abner standing there looking at me, because it was a juvenile thing to do. Yes, I know. It's community theater, to go off script. But I just needed to lighten it up a little bit. And it got quite a few laughs.
Very nice.
And Abner standing there. Yes, Mr. President. I guess whatever you say, sir. Well, that's fine. And you can be the sole heir and beneficiary of the Yokenberry tonic. But some of the humor might be said to be at inappropriate times. I guess maybe going off script is not the most professional thing, but I wasn't getting paid. I was donating my time, and it worked out pretty well. But you reminded me of that.
You mentioned the nerd. Were you able to pull that nerd voice out, or?
Yeah, my name is it's kind of like Petey, but not quite. Yeah, I was the nerd in a play called The Nerd, and it went on for like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and I talked like this till the very end of the show, and then I went off stage because it was all a spoof. When I come back on, I'm in a tuxedo.
And I'm talking in my regular voice. And it was pretty
cool.
Interesting. When I got done with the show, I went out, saw people in the audience, friends that had been there. And,
hey, how do you like the show?
Jim, if you speak like that for another minute, we're going to slap you silly, because that was the most obnoxious, annoying voice that we've ever heard for 2 hours. It was just...
Yeah, you didn't like that?
It was pretty funny. And that show as well, when I auditioned, they said, great voice, but we need something that you can do for 2 hours. And I had the lead in the show. It was pretty nice. I actually sang the song Venus in Blue Jeans.
I'm Venus in blue jeans. Whatever the rest of the words were, I don't remember.
But I had fun.
What about
somebody else?
What about Mr. Ed? Row of who's first.
Well, I say, I did that one on Don Wade and Roma show one day, and it caused a big stir between Don Wade and Roma when Mr. Ed told Tom Snyder on the Tom Snyder show that Don Wade and Roma had Mr. Ed on making fun of Miss America. Yeah, Mr. Ed a little bit. They're all over the place, Frank.
I wrote a few of them down too. Give me a cowardly lion.
Come on, I ain't afraid of no flying monkeys. Come on, put him up. Show me where that little Toto is. I'll eat him for lunch. Yeah, come on.
Where do you come up with that? You're going to eat Toto for lunch.
Just came off the top of my head. Well, I'd rather eat Toto than go after that witch. She's such a hag.
That's awesome.
The British accent, French accent was the first one I ever learned when I was 4th grade speaking French. So there would be a time when I speak to people like, I'm going to Frank Ladina's home to do a podcast. And the first words I heard when I was speaking French was fermez la bouche, which I found out later was close your mouth. I don't know why on earth I would have been told that in school. But I think if all the teachers knew French, I would have heard fermez la bouche very, very often, because rarely was my mouth closed. But no, the French and a British accent, which, I love talking to people like this. And I've actually done some plays where someone came up to me and from England, and they said, "So Jim, which part of England are you from? You sound Cockney. You sound, northern London, southern London." I said, "Hey, whatever sounds good. I just roll with the field."
And then you got a British granny.
Oh, yes, if you like to speak to my granny, I can have her on the telephone. I've answered my phone at home quite often like this. And, hello? May I ask who's calling?
They're like, "Is Jim there?"
Just a minute. Hey, Jim, there's someone. Who's calling, please?
Yeah.
You have to really pay attention and understand the nuances of the voices and the personality that goes into the voices. It's just not just a mimicking of sound. It's rhythm and
yes. And that you mentioned that, I was thinking about that the other day, that I'm finding that these voices are starting to they have their own personality, so to speak. And
when you talk to my granny, you must take her out for a date. Make sure you get her tea and crumpets. She's very, very fragile and a frail old lady.
They start to develop characters, and I enjoy it. Sometimes I surprise myself. I've actually been able to tell stories with about 4 different voices, to the point where people thought they were scripted. I went back to the right voice. Everything, the continuity was phenomenal. Again, a situation I wish I had recorded, because there's so many potential voices in my head. If I pull up the wrong one at the wrong time, all of a sudden,
I'm sorry, you're in the wrong show.
it's like, oops, sorry, wrong channel. But no.
Have you have any little kid stories? You must light the little kids up too.
Oh my gosh! Well, I've done a ton of children's theater. I do like getting kids in the grocery store. If I hear them crying in an aisle, I'll walk over. I'll change aisles. I'll go over and try and make eye contact. And if it's possible, I'll make sure the parent sees that I've got eye contact. That I'm not, going to grab their kid and start talking to them in a different accent.
Hey, how are you today?
You doing all right? Are you having a good day?
How was school? Was school okay? Did you play out in the play yard? And
They got to be looking at you like,
well, they do. And some of them start laughing. And if they're not in the cart, I will always bring myself down physically to eye level with them. I learned decades ago. I hate to say decades because it starts dating myself, which I do on Friday nights. But anyway, realize that children look up, they see adults as these big, towering things over them. And I like to bring it down to their level and speak to them. And being as tall as I am, it's not as hard for me to get to their level as it might be for somebody
not
who
too much of a stretch.
Yeah, it's not much of a stretch at all. In fact, as I go through this life, I'm finding I'm having to look up to more people than I ever thought that I would. And some of them are not worthy of being looked up to.
Hear you. I would say at best I'm average height and I'm taller than you. And I've told some short stuff, self-deprecating short stuff for myself. One of them is when I see people playing basketball, I'll say, yeah, I had to give up playing basketball. I kept jamming my thumbs on the rim all the time and it's hurting myself, And then my brother-in-law is 6'4", and he was talking about car shopping, and he goes, man, they just don't make cars to fit people my size. I go, if you're crying about being too tall, to me, you are barking up the wrong tree, mister. Right. Okay, I give a left leg for another foot of height,
Sure.
It's so funny. But you know what? Yes, I would like to be taller. I'm sure you would too, but small and mighty, I like to say.
The only time it really irritates me is when I see a really attractive young lady who's probably around 5'2", with a guy who's at least 6 foot tall. It's like, really, dude. And I've gone out with I dated a gal that was 6'1" for a while. The first time we went out, we got back to her apartment. I wasn't asking her apartment building.
She was 6'1"?
Yes. And actually a radio personality in Chicago who will remain nameless. And
not too many 6'1" radio personality females. So
she was a sweetheart, just beautiful gal. God bless her soul. She's no longer with us. I had met her when doing radio. I called up the station one day and I was telling her, she goes, I'm like, is this Jim Rabb? I said, it is. How'd you know? She said, your voice. It's your voice. We were on the phone for quite a while. And we got off the phone and I'm listening to the station and their songs went on for quite a while. Usually there's a commercial break. When I spoke to her next, I said, there was quite a long run of music afterwards. She said, you have no idea how excited your voice makes me. I needed to put a couple long records on, and we'll leave that right there. I'm not going to share the rest of that story with you, but apparently I excited her. And but the first time we went out, jokingly, in front of her building, I stepped on the bumper of a car to give her a kiss goodnight. She said, oh, you didn't need to do that. I said, well, I certainly did. Otherwise, I would have gotten slapped if I kissed you. And I said, if I'm having fun, other people are having fun. And I've had people say, hey, shorty. It's like, I find that as a compliment. And it's not what they expect because they're trying to be mean and, some people get upset, but
I was in the gym training with my buddies when I was a younger man, and this woman walked in and she was a knockout, and she was like 6'4". She had the proportions of a regular, woman. Some tall women, they have their like all leg, whatever. She was something. And we were like stunned. Like that was what we would call a stunning woman. And my buddy, comically says, and I'm the shortest guy in the group, what are you going to do with that? I go, I don't know. I'm getting a step stool on my weight belt and my knee wraps, but I'm going for it,
Well, I just get my climbing gear on, the carabiners and a couple pitons, carabiners, and I nail my way across. Now, I went to an appointment one day. I made an appointment on the phone. When I show up for the appointment, I meet the gentleman who's really quite tall. And I go in and it's Bill, my name's Jim Rabb. How are you? Pleased to meet you. And the first thing out of his mouth is, wow, you're short. I said, really? He says, yeah, your voice on the phone. I didn't expect you to be that short.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't call with a voice like this. Talking like a little squirt, but
maybe next time I ought to not use this voice when I'm making telephone calls, right? But I was really kind of dumbfounded that he would have even said anything, but it was all right. I turned it around. I wound up doing business with them. But again, if you get people do business with those they know, like, and trust. So they know me. If I'm a little humorous, they start to like me. Yeah, it's really a stretch to get them to trust me. It's actually, it's not really. I think there's
the humor again.
People are smarter than many of us give them credit for. It's all in the delivery. It's all in the delivery. People can tell when you're sincere. They can tell when you're full of.
Yeah, I fell down. I was on the floor for 3 days because I crapped myself.
But
being tall has its disadvantages
Oh,
too.
absolutely. I think it was it Wilt Chamberlain that had to take out the front seat of a Volkswagen or something in order to drive it. Some basketball star, I know I read, the front seat had to come out.
Well,
You know,
like Shaq, I think he's got a SUV like an Expedition. He took the front seat out. But I have a dear friend. He's 6'9", and his wife, I don't even know she's 5 feet tall.
oh my gosh.
I'm like, when you guys are making Whoopi, can you even kiss her? He's like, no, like because her head's all the way down here.
Right.
You know. So maybe that's a blessing for some people. I don't know.
It could be. I mean, his height alone is yeah. Is this a family show, by the way?
But like you said, with the 6'1" lady, if you'd have kissed her straight on, you'd
my
have been
God.
right in her cleavage.
Well,
so.
actually, and Leave It to Cleavage. That used to be a great show. I watched it, and I love Wally was great, but I love the Beaver. Man, you can't beat the Beaver. Yeah, Leave It to Cleavage. In fact, I worked for a company that was in Cleveland, Ohio. Oh, Cleveland. It is Cleveland, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Which another voice I could probably do, but I'd have to practice that one from The Simpsons. And I wish I could meet all of you personally, because I'd have something to say to everyone. Something to say to everyone.
Well, you're gonna. I told you you've been to several of my functions now.
Yep. Oh.
You're one of those people that I have to have at the functions because you light everybody up, and that brings you to a lot of people.
Absolutely. And being a pyromaniac has its advantages. I've lit up a lot of things. And when I see people on fire, when they're laughing, that truly gives me, and it was really only in the last couple of years, as I think I may have mentioned earlier, people say, what makes you happy? Getting other people to let go of everything in that moment and truly smiling. Yeah, I realized making other people smile.
That is one of your superpowers, my friend.
I really like that. And if I can monetize it before I've left this earth, that would be a good thing. There's nothing funny waking up in the morning wondering how you're gonna pay the milkman for having dated your wife. No, having pay for taking her away from me. Yeah,
So we'll work on this. We'll get the podcast out to everybody, showcase your voices. Making people laugh is an act of kindness. It's something like you're going out of your way to do something, and it brings you joy because giving is the highest form of living. We've discovered that being kind is you get a rate of return immediately when you're being kind, and hopefully people who watch this will see that to let loose a little bit. We need to laugh to offset some of the stresses and strains we're exposed to every day.
Absolutely. And I didn't get into it, and I probably may not on this podcast. I do a lot of animal sounds as well, and very good animal sounds. I share with you, if I may, one quick story in Tennessee. I can call cows, but I call cows with the cow sound, not with words or syllables or anything like that. So I was in Greenville, Tennessee. Oh my gosh, has to be 2020, maybe. So 23 years ago, with a fella. And I said, hey, let's take a drive. I had a real nice car. I took him out in my bonus car, and we went by a field of cows. And I said, I can call those cows across the field. He said, no way. I said, I'm telling you. So I rolled the window down.
That's a good one.
And I'm doing that. The cows are in the field. The first thing they do is stand up. And AJ goes, my God, well, at least I stood up for you. And I said, well, I play to a standing crowd only. So I moved a little bit more, and they started coming. They came across the field. Maybe it was 100 yards. There was a house way up on a hill. I had no idea what was going on in the house, as the woman who was at her kitchen window had no idea what was going on with a car that was pulled over, and the cows are walking over across the field to the fence right near the car. And she got in her little truck and drove down, and I'm on the other side of the road from the field. She stops between us. Said, can I help you? I said, no, I'm beyond help. But
Okay,
I could, and that's, again, one of my, always have a response. She said, what's going on? Are you broken down? I said, no, I was showing him how I can call the cow. She said, I watched from my window. I happened to see you pull over, and then I watched the cows get up, and then I watched them all walk over to your car. I'm thinking, what's going on down here? I said, well, I have to ask you, when you call cows, what do you do? And she said something like combos or whatever. I don't remember what she said because it wasn't.
You even have the cow attitude in that.
Yeah.
Mommy, milk.
And so I said, how's that? And she go, oh my God. She said, you sound exactly like a little calf. She said, you do it very well. But so dogs, cats, some birds. I love calling cows. And I've actually had dates where I've said, it's light out. Let's go out. I'll call some cows. And I don't know if they thought I was.
Somebody said some of your dates were cows.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's what I was just going to say. I don't know if some of those dates thought, at least they didn't say, well, you did call me. I'm in the car now because, there would be no room in the front seat. This voice box of mine has got a lot of stuff in it. And the worst thing, I think I was here. I think I saw you for Friendsgiving where I had lost my voice for a couple of days. And it's really tough for somebody who speaks to not be able to, speak as I wish I could. But I do get selective laryngitis once in a while if I don't want to go on an appointment. I've actually called somebody one day and said, I'm not going to be able to make my appointment. I woke up this morning, my voice is really killing me. And the guy's like, well, Jim, I hope you feel better, whatever. Later that afternoon, there was no caller ID. Phone rings, Jim Rabb. Jim, it's Earl. You sound a heck of a lot better than you did this morning. Earl, I don't know what it was, but man, I woke up this morning, my voice was gone. In fact, sometimes it goes and it comes back and then it goes again and it comes back selectively. But I didn't tell him that because I just had to go with it. I think he would have been upset with me had he known that. So you didn't feel like coming, you made up an excuse that your voice was shot.
I want you to watch a couple scenes from Full Metal Jacket.
Okay.
And see if you could get that drill sergeant down because he's got an awesome voice. Have you ever seen that movie?
I've seen it. I don't remember a lot about movies. It's not Arlie Army, is it?
No.
It was okay. I'll have to.
Oh, is it the actor?
Yeah.
I don't know who it is. But he used to be a real drill instructor. Yeah. So you have the graveliness in there. That would be a good one for you.
I'll let me make a note. Full Metal Jacket. I'll have to. Full Metal Jacket. I thought it was a story about the knights in shining armor.
Kind of is, but
they got full metal everything. Man, I wonder if they wore Bidens inside those. Bidens are right.
No,
those are adult diapers. Don't worry. My name's Joe Biden, and I'm running for Senate.
He said that too.
Yeah, he did say that.
He called Kamala the president too, I think, somewhere.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of good ones.
No, so I'm working on Smokey the Bear. I've had that down cold. They got Sam Elliott doing that commercial right now, which I think I do the original Smokey Bear voice better. I'm not going to do it right now. But I listen to Sam Elliott, who's doing the Smokey Bear, and maybe I can. Only you can prevent forest fires. I've tried to do Sam Elliott's voice. Some of them are a little more catchy.
He's got a tough one, though.
He does have a tough one.
He's
I like
way down baritone-ish kind of guy.
Very deep. My throat's a little grovelly today. If I work it too much, it starts to get a little staticky. But I really appreciate the opportunity to come in, Frank. You've been awesome. Your podcasts are great. I'd like to know that more and more people are spreading the word.
And I have to thank you for introducing me to great guests that I've had on. Your superpower with your voices and making people laugh, that's a connecting tool. A lot of people move in your direction. You have huge amount of influential people in your life. So it's working, right? You just have to network a little bit now. And like I said to you, if you could think of a kind of a cool, dramatic introduction to the Warrior podcast, let's do it, man. So...
No, I will definitely. I'm pretty good at creating that. When I worked at the comedy club up in Aurora, they had me come up with an opening line for the Laugh Factory. I don't know if you've ever heard of Laugh Factory. They were on Comic Strip Live. Mm-hmm. So they opened up one in Aurora. I went in to get a job there. And they said they said, we'll give you a job. All we got is washing dishes. Well, you get in the front door. So I'm in there washing dishes. But Joel, who I had spoken to, I had told him I had done a little bit of radio, and he came out over to me the second night. Said, Jim, how'd you like to open up the show? I said, well, how do you mean? He said, well, you've got a great voice. I got a radio voice, whatever. Can you come up with something? We play the Alan Parsons Project, the beginning of the Bulls music. Mm-hmm. So I wrote up real quickly, good evening, comedy fans, and welcome to the world's famous Laugh Factory, home of Fox 32's Comic Strip Live. Tonight's foreman here at the factory will be Vince Vasectomy, Vince Vaselli, yes, and whatever. So they had me do that, and in fact, the first night it was Vince Vaselli, and he came up to me and he said, Jim, I asked you not to say that because I told him ahead of time, you mind if I say Vince Vasectomy? And he didn't like that idea, but it did get a laugh, and I would take tickets from the people when they were coming in. I had a couple of the folks in front of the comedians who were hanging out in the room where people were getting their IDs checked. A couple of them said, dude, you got to stop being funny in line, because somebody came up to me the other night and said, the guy taking the tickets was funnier than you were. I mean, I'd be spontaneously cracking jokes with everybody as they came through. And I guess my place was supposed to be on stage, or ignore the man behind the curtain. That's where they had me in a closet. Been in the closet a little bit more than I should be.
Yeah, it's all payback for the PD, story.
Yeah, guys, you found me in the closet.
Petey's a good man, and he loves everyone. Petey does want to wish, along with everybody else that might hear this, a very happy holiday, you and your family. Merry Christmas. Keep an eye out for Santa and his 3 hoes. And you'll have to think about that one. Some people wonder, what'd you just say? But no, I hope everyone has a wonderful year next year. Hang on, strap yourself in. We're going to go for a sleigh ride.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's going to be a bumpy one, but we can persevere, get through it. And remember, just smile, have fun, and laugh. We can't take everything seriously. I don't.
Yep.
Unless it's the IRS, in which case then I just pass out. So thank you, Frank.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
You're awesome.
Thank you for joining us, everybody, on the Warrior Podcast. I love the message today, having Jim Rabb on. We have to embrace the funny side of life. We're going to need it. So take care, everybody. We'll see you at our next podcast.